All right, let's dive into some fascinating lore from the architects of the Universal Library. We're going to explore the tragic story of a really powerful entity known as the Spirit of Infinite Order. And trust me, this is way more than just a story about some cosmic librarian. It's a deep, cautionary tale about ambition, paradox, and the catastrophic price of seeking absolute perfection.
Right off the bat, the story hits us with this pretty chilling quote. It really frames everything that's about to happen. I mean, think about that idea, that the very act of creating perfect order could just be setting the stage for the most spectacular failure imaginable. It really sets a tone for a truly tragic downfall.
So this brings us to our tragic hero, if you can call it that, the Spirit of Infinite Order. Its entire existence was driven by this one, all-consuming obsessive vision. And this wasn't just about, tidying up the universe. No, this was about fundamentally reshaping reality itself into a flawless, perfectly predictable system. The Spirit's goal was something called ultimate control. And this was not a passive dream. It truly believed that by cataloging absolutely everything, and I mean every thought, every action, every little whisper, it could achieve total dominance. For the Spirit, information wasn't just knowledge. It was a weapon, a tool to impose its will on the entire universe. And what was the end game here? A universe of perfected predictability. Just try to imagine that for a second. A reality with no chance, no chaos, and absolutely no surprises. A place where everything that could ever happen was already known, cataloged, and accounted for. To the Spirit, this was utopia. For everyone else, well, it sounds a bit like a nightmare, doesn't it?
And this vision was, frankly, radical. The Spirit wanted every single thought filed and indexed like a library book. Every action to be predetermined, which, let's be honest, effectively erases free will. It wanted zero ambiguity, leaving no room for interpretation. And maybe the most chilling part, it sought the ontological anchoring of all truth, a single, unchangeable, absolute reality for all beings. The ambition here is just staggering.
Of course, no great story is complete without a villain. Edvar Arter, that was the spirit of primal discord. But their relationship was so much more complicated than just good versus evil. The source material calls it a cruel independence, a paradox that would end up sealing both of their fates. And you can see that dynamic perfectly laid out here. On one side, you have the builder, the cataloger, the stabilizer, and on the other, you have the unraveler, the destroyer, the agent of chaos. They're perfect opposites, Each one is defined by the other. But as we're about to find out, one really can't exist without its counterpart. And here it is, the heart of the paradox. In building its perfectly interconnected library of everything, the Spirit of Order was unknowingly building the perfect weapon for its enemy. The more organized and flawless the system became, the more devastating its collapse would be. It was basically building this magnificent, intricate house of cards, which made it not only easier for Discord to knock it down, but infinitely more impactful when it did. So this interdependence, it's just building towards an inevitable collapse. The system the Spirit designed wasn't just vulnerable, it was fundamentally designed to fail. Its greatest strength, its absolute perfection, was also its single fatal flaw. And here's what that flaw was. Extreme structural rigidity. The system had no give, no flexibility. It was brittle. See, it was designed to be perfect and unchanging, which meant it had absolutely no capacity to adapt or to bend or to survive any kind of shock it had already accounted for. So why was this so dangerous? Because in a perfect system like this, there was no shadow for information to hide in. There was no redundancy, no backup copies, no systemic noise, as the source calls it. This meant that a single breach, just one tiny broken piece of logic, wouldn't just damage the library. It would cause a catastrophic, total system failure. It was all or nothing. And this all leads us to the climax of the story. A forbidden ritual happens, and it fuses the two opposing spirits into a single monstrous form. And it's right here that the Spirit of Order's own ambition becomes the very engine that drives the entire system straight into ruin. This quote really just says it all. The Spirit of Order's relentless drive, its ego, its absolute certainty that it alone knew the path to perfection.
That's precisely what caused the end of everything it had ever built. The one thing it couldn't control was its own need for control. Okay, let's walk through this final tragic sequence of events. First, the two spirits are fused together. Second, Order's ambition takes over immediately. It tries to use a powerful artifact called the Tool of Essence Absorption to absorb all knowledge and finally get that ultimate control it craved. But then, the twist. The spirit of discord, now part of this fused being, subverts that goal. It twists the desire for ultimate knowledge into a desire for ultimate ignorance, pivoting the mission from knowing everything to erasing everything. And the aftermath of that? Subversion was absolute. This wasn't just a setback or a defeat. It was a complete and total erasure. The universal undoing. Because of that extreme structural rigidity we just talked about, there was no firewall, no chance for partial loss. The entire library, all the knowledge it contained, was just wiped from existence in a single instant. The perfectly ordered system suffered a perfectly total collapse. So what's the takeaway from all this? The story of the Spirit of Infinite Order is this incredibly powerful cautionary tale. It's a warning that the pursuit of absolute control, of total knowledge, becomes unbelievably dangerous when it's completely devoid of flexibility or any humility or any room for even a little bit of chaos. Which leaves us with a final, pretty provocative question to think about. Is the pursuit of absolute perfection itself a flawed goal? Is it always inevitably just an invitation for total destruction? That's a heavy thought to end on. Thanks for digging into this one with me.